Hey, Fisker fam, we are back for another edition here of the Ocean Currents podcast. I am one co-host for today, Andrew Bach. Bill is off for this episode, but I'm excited to bring this one to all of us, to all of you today, because we are going to be chatting today with the technician, Dorian Rosales, who I think a lot of people have had some form of contact with in one way or another. I feel like I've heard others say, "Oh, I know Dorian," or I've spoken to Dorian, as I see on, chats and things like that. So it'll be fun for us to talk to Dorian at length about exactly what went into fixing and solving the problems with my Fisker Ocean. So first, Dorian, hi.
Hey, Andrew. How's it going, man? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Good to finally meet you over the phone or over the face-to-face. Ironically, everyone listening to this, Dorian and I never even got to interact through this. We were just sort of texting, and there was a lot of back and forth, and Forrest, who is the service manager there at Pat's, was excellent in terms of keeping me up to date with what was going on. But this is my first time getting to talk to Dorian about the trials and tribulations, better known as my Fisker Ocean. So quick reset for everybody, in case you missed the saga of this story. Started in January, where I was having issues with my doors. Occasionally, they would kind of stop working, and by stop working, I mean stop opening. Not just that the door handles weren't retracting or coming up, but that they actually would not open. And so I was crawling in and out of the hatch for a while, and eventually they finally went all together, and would not open in any way, shape, or form. There was no more sort of intermittent anything. It was basically at that point, okay, these doors are more or less welded shut. And as I said in a previous episode, as much as I would, kind of relish the idea of an electric General Lee, and something that I could just sort of have welded doors shut and just sort of slide through the window, that's not really practical for this vehicle. So Dorian and the team at Pat's Garage had this car for quite a while. But what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna start just prompting, just giving Dorian sort of an open floor to sort of talk about this, and I want to make sure that we're really diving into just how much coordination and assistance there was from the general Fisker community, and something that was just really nice to see as we battled through this problem. So Dorian, why don't you tell us what you learned so far?
Oh man, it was definitely something we haven't seen in the shop. It was fun getting in and out of the car through the trunk, definitely. But one of the first things that we did is just your basic diag. We checked the 12 battery. We did a bunch of resets, soft resets, hard resets. Eventually, your battery had to get replaced. I think you had an OEM battery.
Yeah, I think it's funny. That was something that I had not had to deal with. My battery was the original, I was still running off the original battery. And I think actually that was your first sort of eureka moments, if I'm not mistaken, was that you thought that this could have been all sort of traced back to that original battery, but it turned out not to be that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say all the time, but almost 80% of the time, doing a hard reset or a soft reset by disconnecting the turbo battery will fix most of the issues with the car. And we've seen that, even with the old Fisker Karmas that we work on, doing a hard reset just almost fixes everything and putting a new battery. But for your case, it was not the case.
Yeah, it was interesting because I think Forrest, I'm trying to find the exact quote of what he said to me at one point, but it was something to the degree of, that you guys have worked on tens of thousands of cars in the shop over the years of all different kinds of, so just so we're clear, the Pat's Garage is not only a Fisker shop. They just happen to be the sort of the experts here in the Bay Area. They work on everything, normal garage, and so it's not just that I was the first Fisker to have this problem. I think it was just interesting for me to be the first car that anyone has seen in however long to have this problem.
Yeah, and I think most of the oceans have their unique problems because I don't think there is like a pattern of issues that is going on with all the Fisker oceans. Everything is just kind of like its own issues that everybody that works on them. I'm in a group chat with a lot of technicians and owners that we help each other. We pick brains on tips on how to fix the issues. So every ocean is just its own unique vehicle with its problems.
So you haven't found that there's any kind of particular pattern or order or sort of, there's nothing to the madness, right? It's essentially just really willy-nilly or haphazard, and there's no two problems sort of present the same way.
Well, not on all four doors,
right?
Definitely. I've had other technicians that I've texted with, and they said, "Yep, I have one door that is not retracting, it's not opening from the inside or the outside." And they tried doing the door lock actuator, and it works. Others have done the door handle, and it does the trick for them. It's hard to say. There's no.
Did you find it interesting? Or I guess I should say, did you find it as interesting as I did that removing power from the situation, right? When you disconnected everything, you would think at that point there would be some mechanism that would just release everything, right? There would be nothing to hold there. That was, to me, the most surprising was, both high volt and low volt, doesn't matter. Just taking anyway, all power, everything just sort of stayed.
Yeah, for sure. Because that was one of the first things that we did. And after, that didn't work. And after that, we had suspicion of a bad PKC.
Well, was the BCM first, or was it the PKC that?
Oh, we thought it was the PKC first because because we didn't have there was no communication. So the vehicle has two NFC readers. One is on the handle, the outside, the driver's side handle. The other one is under the steering wheel. So when we hook up our scanner, there was, I think I put a picture on your repair order. It was that the external NFC was not responding. That's why we opted to replace your door handle, not because of the recall, but it was because it wasn't responding.
So that was less about, so that was basically just a full failure of the of that mechanism, and at that point you just have to replace it anyway.
It was just the door. It was just a bad door
Interesting.
handle.
Okay. So
once we replaced the door handle, we knew that it was communicating to the PKC. So the door handle was communicating with the PKC, and that the internal NFC reader was communicating to the PKC. So at that point, we knew your PKC was fine. We didn't have to do, because you probably know that the PKC, in order to get to the PKC, you need to remove the
whole dash removal, right? So obviously it's kind of the last thing you want to try and it's the last thing you want to start with. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So with that in mind, we knew that your PKC was fine. So it was definitely something else, like a module. And then that's when I started contacting a lot of people. I got on the phone with someone from Austria.
And that was helping me. Is that someone that was a Fisker tech, or was that a just an owner who has been?
I think it's I'm pretty sure he's an owner that owns OFT. And he was helping me with commands, unlocking the car, locking the car, sending different type of commands that just did not do anything.
So, and that was with the OFT tool, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, we've now done a replacement of the door handle. We've obviously,
Yep.
You've gone through all the, scan for any kind of codes or errors there.
Yeah, we definitely pulled some link communication errors.
And what were those, out of curiosity? What kind of errors were you seeing? Like I think what's important and what'll be most helpful to all of us is really to understand just how many different things were either impacted or affected by this, or that you tried to troubleshoot or touch on the way to solve.
Yeah, so the main codes that you were getting, it was lost link 8 communication. And that's just the wire that goes to the BCM. And it controls the door handle actuators. So you had codes for all doors.
Okay. So theoretically, it could have just been a code clear.
Yeah.
Because the codes were coming off. And if you clear those codes, maybe the actuators were going to release.
Yeah.
And obviously that did not happen.
This awesome person that was helping me from Austria, he did a code wipeout, and they returned right away.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's when we were starting to think that it was a bad BCM, a bad wiring somewhere, loose connection on a wiring. That's when I started doing more testing, and I want to shout out my coworker Byron, who was also helping me with testing. And we just could not find anything. All the wiring was okay. There was no break in any of the cables. Everything seemed okay. So we were like scratching our heads.
Were you ever concerned about, I think one of the things that people have been trying to address in a proactive manner are the connectors, that aren't waterproofed, or those types of things. Are there any, knowing that you've likely paid as much attention as any of us to sort of what individual owners are trying to address themselves, is there anything that you guys learned through this that falls into that category of something like, oh, maybe if we address this, or maybe, if we look at this kind of, you check the condition of this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yes. It was definitely something I was hoping to see.
Yeah.
Corrosion.
Right.
I was hoping to see corrosion, because that that's an easy fix. But there was nothing to go off of. Everything seemed okay. I mean, all the wires okay, connectors seem okay. Nothing to go off of.
So talk to me a little bit about what you were doing manually. You took apart the doors.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, getting to the door panel with the door closed, it was just, the amount of space you get, it was, I didn't have enough space. So once I was able to get the door panel just partially open, I was able to undo the cable from the door handle, and that didn't work.
So that's what you were, when I see the work or the efforts around the actuator cable, that was from the outside, as you guys basically had rolled down the window, and you were sort of prying or trying to pry to the best of your ability as much of the interior paneling off, so that you could access the mechanics of it with absolutely no space, because obviously the door's closed, and so you're right against the seat and the A-pillar.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. And so, I was pulling on the cable, nothing. So I knew mechanically it was the bad actuator. So I had to literally break the actuator that you had in order to just get the door open.
How did you do that?
With screwdriver, trying to get
just go,
literally, because I didn't have room. I couldn't really see much, with the door closed and the panel just partially open. It literally broke the actuator, because we couldn't get it open.
So were you just essentially in there with like a long screwdriver, just sort of prying and trying to crack it until it released?
Yep.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw, there was a post made into the, I think the Facebook owners group.
Uh-huh.
I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know for sure, but there was someone talking about that they had their car for 9 months, no problems. They were fully charged last night. And they got in it. After they closed, everything stopped working. The doors were unlocked, but they wouldn't open from either side. This individual ended up having to call the fire department,
Ooh.
and they had to be cut out of the vehicle using the jaws of life. So that seems to be the other. If you don't have the time, and if obviously you're stuck inside the car when this happens.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, man, the car itself is beautiful. It's a
Yeah,
mid-size SUV with a great look. It's just fundamentally, man, it just lacks common sense. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it started with the hood.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
just something
it's
that
just even
I
that. Right.
cannot wrap my head around.
Yeah. What were your biggest pain points, aside from the door, which we know is was impossible? What were the hardest sort of aspects or areas of the vehicle to work in?
Oof. It's kind of hard to say because I was texting with just about every individual that I could text,
Yep.
just to pick their brains, and they were giving me tips on what to test, what to do, what not to do, and what to look for, and I was doing that, and everything that they said, you know, it came out okay, you know, and you're pretty much just a sitting duck.
That's I guess my sort of the question is there anything that you learned or that anyone learned through this process that would be able to say, is this a problem that you are going to be sort of notified of in some capacity so that you know it's coming? Is it an all at once? I have an old BMW, the fuel pump
Yeah.
died, right? That's an instantaneous thing, right? You turn on the car and then all of a sudden it just stops, everything cuts, and then that's the end of that.
Yeah, I think for me it's honestly not having information.
Yeah,
Even though I do have people that I can text, I do have some wiring diagrams that I can access. But just when I work on my Prius, I can just go on all data
yeah.
and get all the information is there for that. But for the ocean, you know, you gotta contact people. You gotta wait for them to respond back. That was I think the frustrating part, getting information from the techs or the owners, things
And
like that.
because you're doing it, you're sort of all over the place. It's just, and this is what's adding to the time too, is you're waiting for answers from people, and they're in
Yeah.
a couple different
Oh,
time
yeah,
zones, and everything
exactly.
is, yeah, yeah. How would you compare the challenges, frustrations, what have you, on the ocean to the karma?
Ooh. Again, I think just the practicality of the car itself is just it's just different. The karma, even though it was just kind of a similar situation, with the whole bankruptcy situation, but there is information. I think it all
Right.
comes down to
Yeah, it's
information.
information. Yeah.
There is it's kind of because it's early to say with the ocean because it hasn't been 2 3 years.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying patterns. You can't really tell patterns because we don't know when the high voltage battery is gonna go out. You know,
Right.
uh, I do on the chats that I'm on, a lot of people, are saying, look, I have a new problem with this ocean.
Right.
Other guys are like saying, the high voltage is just not communicating or the BCM or just different problems. And you can't really, you, there's no, you
There's
can't
no
tell.
there's no precedent for it. This
Yeah.
is what I said to someone was, every problem that one of us is running into, for the most part, is a first time for that problem.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so, and as you're saying, without the information, or any type of thing to rely on, right? I think about this Bentley manual that I have sitting here for my
Yeah.
E46 BMW, that 12,000 pages or whatever it is, and shows you how to do everything. and there's nothing even remotely equivalent to that, and
Yeah.
no parent company or corporate sort of database or warehouse to go to for answers.
Yeah.
So as you guys continue to work on the oceans specifically, I think the karmas are not really relevant to what we're talking about here. But as you continue to work on the oceans, are you finding that there is a lifespan to anything? Are you finding anything that is aside from the battery, right? I think we know the 12-volt battery is a culprit for for a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think the things we know in terms of bad lifespan are the 12-volt battery and the batteries on the key fob. Those are the only sort of knowns in terms of like just consistent timeframes or consistent lifespans. Is there anything outside of even what you did for my car that you have learned or figured out that we can share with folks that are sort of just good things to be really mindful of or thinking about as you are, as we're continuing this journey?
Man, kind of hard to say. Again, it's too early.
Yeah.
It's just because
How many oceans have you worked on, out of curiosity?
I think probably around 50 oceans, but most of them has been the water pumps and key fob reprogram. Nothing crazy like we did with your vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
But we have seen quite a bit, and also not having OFD. It's a huge factor because if you can't scan the car, you don't know where you're going as
Right.
far as diag.
Right.
So for now, we're gonna see less Fiskers, but we're still gonna book some appointments here and there because not having the scanner,
not having that tool. Yeah, I think it's obviously how do you know where to start
exactly
without it? Yeah. So it's funny, I even with only the two doors sort of working right now, I've been driving it a little bit more in the last couple of days, and
the driver's side.
Yeah, the driver's side's working. Yeah, which is good. And we sort of talked about this a little bit before. It's a great looking vehicle, and honestly, still have not found many other EVs, and I've driven a lot of them on the market right now that offer the driving experience of that car.
Yeah, man, it's definitely a very comfy ride.
Yeah,
I don't think you can argue with that.
Yeah,
not only the looks, but I think it's the range that you get. It's amazing. For an SUV.
Have you guys been dealing with at all any of the parts manufacturers or anyone like that? Like, what's your process for procuring whatever you need? Is that all through Tsunami, the parts? Is it? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, definitely. Something we have to contact Civil, MASH, for specific parts.
Yep.
But your typical websites that a lot of people access, Tsunami, and the ones that everybody knows that are in the groups, like as far as owners and technicians for the oceans.
Yeah.
Nothing really that people don't know.
I hear you. So how much time would you think that you spent overall trying to solve this problem between in-shop hours, out-of-shop hours, just your own,
I did spend a lot of time, and sometimes you could see me texting someone at like 9, 9 at, 9:10, at night, from someone from the UK or Austria. So it was definitely, a lot of time.
I think a lot of what we've talked about a few times on the show is, I think the natural owner, especially the owner of a car like this, is sort of a tinkerer by nature, and someone who is a little bit more comfortable with unknowns. And so I think about that side of it. And what do you think about and I don't know how familiar you are, but what the work that the Owners Association is doing as it relates to software and some of the focus that is being done specifically to address some of the shortcomings of the vehicle, because it is such a great car. It's a great car, right,
Yeah.
from a driving
Yep.
perspective. So
Yeah.
how do in terms of fixing these edges?
I think the FOA group has done such a good job in a short amount of time. Like accessing or at least getting information out to customers and technicians. You know, putting out trainings, or having information about the car and making it possible to even have a scanner. There is an Ocean Link Pro scanner
Yeah.
that I've heard you mention. I think in a short amount of time, they've done such a good job at keeping everybody on their toes.
Yeah, at least trying to keep us all going here
Yeah,
in
yeah,
some capacity. Same thing for you guys, right? The shops, the independent shops that are all over, not just your garage here in the Bay Area, but Evolution Motorsports back east, and all of these other shops that I know are all equally incentivized to figure these problems out
yeah,
collectively.
yeah. Like I said, there's every car has its unique problems,
Yep.
and sometimes you just can't figure it out. Honestly, it's
Yeah.
just only time will tell if you find a pattern. And the more people see them, the more information you get. That's pretty much how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you again for all of the work that you did, and just the time that you guys spent, collectively, you and the whole team, really just trying to figure this out. And again, and like I was saying, while we are all naturally tinkerers and interested in figuring out and solving these types of problems, not everyone has to go above and beyond and
Yeah,
sort of be doing this stuff outside
yeah,
of and thinking about it at all hours. So
yeah,
I think we collectively appreciate that, because everything that we can learn and document and share with others and make sure that it is put out into the community
yeah,
is, I think, going to be more helpful than.
yeah. I mean, I honestly think that uh, the Fisker Ocean is gonna hold their ground, for a very long time. I think they're gonna be on the road for many years, man. Honestly, because the FOA is just doing such a great job at, again, informing technicians and customers on how to keep their car running, even with
Yeah.
their little hiccups. I think they're gonna hold their ground.
No organization, no one's perfect, especially one that is born out of a crisis or an emergency or something that was, completely unplanned.
Yeah, yeah. It's not something that owners planned. When
No,
they
no
bought
one,
their car.
yeah, building a plane in the air is not always something that people will intentionally sign up
Yeah,
for. And
yeah,
I don't think that that's what
yeah,
people expected here, and keeping them on the road, and or as Christian says, if people want to get out, helping them get out. If people want to stay in the car, helping them stay in their car and keeping it going, I think is those are the two options at this point. And you guys along the way are going to be there to, I'm sure, continue to help and continue to hopefully solve some of these problems and get them out to the rest of the community.
yeah. That's why we're here, man. Just to help customers. And sometimes I see technicians in the chat saying, "Hey, can someone just remote control this vehicle or unlock this car for the customer that is locked out or something?" And people just technicians just go and do the job and just to help out a customer. I think it's just great.
I think that's one of the most unique components of this is the just how quickly the community snapped together and formed around it and just said, all right, well, there's enough here. So let's just sort of band together and try and figure out a path forward for everybody.
Yeah,
And hopefully we'll be able to salvage and make the best of what is not a great situation
yeah,
for a lot of
and I
people.
think it also adds to the sentimental value that customers will have. At least for those that keep their car, it's just with the whole bankruptcy situation, the FOA, it just adds to
that
that value.
that's a big driver for me, right? If you're a car person, and
Yeah,
you're someone who is just naturally drawn to the automotive space, the idea of being able to have some measure of impact or a voice in the direction of the vehicle and have be a part of something more than just buying it from the dealership and driving it,
Yeah.
which is the vast majority of people. It's a really unique opportunity
Yeah.
for that. This is beyond, joining the fanatics or joining the local Reddit thread for your other vehicle and talking about what mods you make. This is actually really doing a completely different type of work, which
Yeah.
is
And I just want to shout out all the mobile mechanics, man, that are on the road, just driving miles just to get to a customer and get their get their car fixed. It's just
it, it is amazing. I don't know that I've ever seen in my life so many individuals on first name bases with their technicians for their vehicles.
for sure.
And how many of these people, everyone's like, oh yeah, X or whoever, and
Yeah.
just the amount of people that you guys are all touching, whether it's in the shop or out on the road, and helping keeping everyone going. I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure many of us, which is just that it's greatly appreciated because obviously no one signed up for this, and there's no one,
Absolutely.
there's nothing that's keeping, there's nothing that is sort of demanding that you guys stay involved, right? I think a lot
Yeah.
of people, rightfully so, are just saying, "All right, this is too much. I'm out. I'm just going to continue to service Priuses and whatever else,
Yeah.
and just very standard business and be fine." But for those of you guys that have continued on with this challenge, it's certainly been a ride.
Oh yeah. I mean, the oceans just are an eye catcher for
Yeah,
all the people that don't drive them or don't get to work on them.
I saw a comment the other day on one of the forums that was like, "There's nothing like driving the ocean, uh, but owning it is a completely different story."
Yes.
And that is essentially that's true. So my advice to people has been, as they come up to me and ask about it, is, what is your appetite
Yeah.
for pain? What is your tolerance?
Right.
And how much are you willing to sort of troubleshoot and do yourself? And how much do you, the entire time that my car was with you guys, it wasn't like there was a loaner Fisker,
Right.
so it's just
Exactly.
so how much of that are you able to sort of deal with in your own personal life is sort of what I share with folks. But Dorian, again, thank you for taking this time. Is there anything else that we missed, or anything else that you think that is important or that we should share with folks?
No, I think unless you have more questions, but on my side, I'm pretty good.
You covered it. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, again, thanks for joining me and coming on and sharing everything that you learned with the Fisker Owners Association and the community here. And hopefully you don't have to see my car for a long time. Who
Right?
knows? I
Fingers
still
crossed.
I still don't know if I'm gonna. We still don't know if I'm keeping it or what. It's we're
I
still
was
in
gonna
that.
ask you, are you gonna what's
I
your plan?
I am under. I am unclear at this particular moment because of I'm not clear. I guess what I should say is what stipulates um, an inoperable vehicle
Yeah.
as it relates to the settlements and things like that. And
Yeah.
so that's, I think, where we're at this stage is, well, yes, it drives.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to point. I just want to add one more thing. I
Yeah,
think the early built vehicles. I think it has a lot to do with it too. That
I agree.
it was just kind of like your trial vehicles,
Yeah.
and I think that's also part of it. Just the ocean ones, the very early ones that are like the ones that are going down.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and it doesn't seem to be mileage based, right?
Yeah.
It just seems to be time based. I
Yeah.
think it's no matter what, this is what's happened. That's why I'm sort of interested in it, right? My car has 33,000 miles on it. Most people would probably not even dream of getting to 33,000
Yeah.
miles on the Fisker at this point,
Yeah.
and they're still having those problems. So
Yeah.
these are not necessarily wear and tear through use. These are literally time based kind of issues, and that's what's sort of so interesting, and why it does seem to be more.
And I feel like even if the company had waited for the 2.2 to roll out, I think they still would have struggled. Just because just because the unknown factor.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think there was so much momentum for others in the space, and they had so many headwinds against them, Fisker,
Yeah,
just generally.
yeah,
And I, I have my opinions about why that was and how a lot of that went down, but I do think that it is not something that was necessarily going to be remedied by hold the cars for an extra month, let's put the next software on, and then everything's going to be fine,
yeah.
because we're still dealing with issues even
Yeah, I
on
mean,
that software.
like look at mechanics right now. The shops right now. You know, we have some shops have OFD, some shops have fast, but they still have there's still issues even with all
Yeah,
the scanners and swapping parts, swapping modules. There's still there's still issues, and we don't know what's gonna happen in 3-4 years. How what else is gonna go bad? It's
right.
the
That's
unknown
the
variable.
There's a lot of unknowns. I think, so many other standard, whether they're ICE vehicles or even electric vehicles at this point, there's enough of a track record for them that we know where these problems are, right? Early generation Volkswagens had problems with their charging doors, right? Like there's
Yeah.
these things that that there are, it's just, it is what it is with this one.
And from a from an owner's perspective, everything's out of pocket.
Yeah, right. That's always
You
the
can't
fun part.
you can't go to the dealership and request a refund or
There's no warranty,
there's no
right?
warranty.
The warranty's done. So
Yeah,
everything, as you guys are finding and having to source these parts or all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Yes, it is it
That's
is an out of
frustrating
pocket expense.
from a customer. It's
Yeah,
frustrating.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for a brand new car. Yes.
Yeah,
That said,
yeah,
as I've said to people, I read every day of the brand new Toyota Tundra and the engine fails, or this is so there. I think this is more of a indictment against just how complicated cars have gotten over the years, and how many more electronics and computer systems. And that was part of the reason why I got an E46 as my backup car, is because I can do most of the work myself.
yeah. It's like the BCM that I replaced, the body
Yeah,
control module.
yeah,
It controls. I'm reading it on technical training that I have. It controls the exterior lighting, interior lighting, wipers, door handles, the locking control, anti-theft, the horn, window control, low voltage management. It's just one module controls so many components. If one goes out, you have no wipers, you have no lights, no doors.
right.
Just everything is computer controlled nowadays.
Right. It's taking down so many things.
Yeah,
It's not just one issue now. It's when one thing goes, it takes down a bunch with it.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with the water pump. The water pump went out. The car can drive.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, we'll continue
Yeah, man.
to fight the
We can
battle.
spend hours
And
here, but I think we
exactly.
got to wrap it up.
Yeah. And I appreciate your time doing this, and hopefully we don't run into any more serious issues that need diving in like this, that haven't sort of already been haven't been covered in forums or whatever.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, who knows? As you say, it's
It's
just
a way to see, basically.
exactly. Yeah. Well, again, thanks for your time and all the work you did on this. And Fisker fam, we'll catch you soon. Thanks for your time.